So, welcome everyone to our Wednesday session with the Shelter Animal Reiki Association. And today's topic is going to be all about the precepts. And I am so excited about this topic because if you know me at all, you know that the number one tool that I've used since day one of learning Reiki, animal Reiki, because I didn't learn people Reiki, is the precepts. And there's a reason for that because the precepts in themselves are a meditation, even though they don't really seem that way. And so when I took my first class, my animal Reiki class with Kathleen, and it's all about meditation, right? This is a meditative practice. I was telling Kathleen, oh, it's so hard for me to meditate. Now, in a group, it's much easier because you get the group energy of a meditation. So in class, it wasn't so hard. But there were times when I found my mind wandering, and her advice was, just recite the precepts. Just say the precepts, say them over, use them as your mantra. And it really was powerful and magical for me. And we'll get into why, and I'll share a little bit about this. But right now, I'm going to share my screen. And I just want to give you an idea because some of you might not know um, the precepts. And I know that last week we had someone who didn't know the precepts. So I just want to just go over this. And so can you see my screen? Can you see the circle? Okay, perfect. So on this, for today only, that's how we always start our precepts, for today only. What that means is not for this whole entire day. It means in this moment. It's a very Buddhist concept. So for today only, do not anger. So what does that mean, do not anger? Does it mean never ever get angry? No. What it means is that we don't hold on to our anger. So I'm sure like if you think about yourself when you get angry at someone or angry at something that happened. Like this used to be me when I was younger before this practice actually. Something would happen and I would carry it with me, right? I would be mad about it all day, like just something pissed me off, and I would just carry it. And that's where the precepts come in because the precepts are just asking you to let it go, right? Do not anger. Because when we let go of anger, we get down to the next level, which is worry. Because what's right below anger is worry. So a lot of times we're getting angry because we're actually worried about something. We're worried about how someone is reacting to us. We're worried about what might be happening in our life. So we say for today only, do not worry. And again, doesn't mean that you're never going to get worried. What it means is that you're going to bring your attention to your worry. So for me, for these precepts, especially these first two, and for today only, right? That those three phrases for today only, do not anger, do not worry. Throughout my day, if I'm getting angry or I'm getting worried, without fail, it comes to me, "Oh, for today only, right? That is because these precepts act, and I studied with different meditation teachers. There really isn't as powerful of a mindfulness tool in other practices as there is in Reiki with the precepts. Because you'll find when you get angry, when you get worried, the precepts pop up. Now, this is if you've made them a daily practice, right? You have to incorporate them in order for this to happen for you. So for me, I'll be angry. This comes up and I go, oh, yeah, that's right. And so it's an immediate acknowledgement, brings me back into the present moment and goes, you know what? For today only, just let it go. In this moment, right now, I can let go of that anger. Doesn't mean, and again, for today only is a Buddhist concept in this moment, right now. Right now, I can let go of my anger. Right now, I can let go of worry. I can literally live for 1 minute of my life without anger and worry, right? We all can. And that's what the precepts bring to us is just in this moment. You don't have to think about, oh gosh, but what about in 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Or what about tomorrow when I have to see this person I'm mad at? No, just in this moment right now. And the more you do that, the more the anger, the more the worry starts to dissipate. So this version of the precepts is a very simplistic version of the precepts. It's one that Kathleen used to teach a long time ago, and maybe it wasn't even Kathleen, maybe it was Franz, but one of the teachers used to teach this, and I liked it because it was so simple. But we'll get into the more traditional precepts in a little bit. But we let go of anger, we let go of worry, we get down to humility, right? Humility, letting go of our ego. Because why are we worried? Because our ego is telling us we need to be worried. Why are we angry? Because our ego is telling us you need to be angry. But what happens when we become humble? When we can let go of that and we can realize that maybe, just maybe, there's another side to it, right? So if you're angry at a person, being humble is saying, well, I'm looking at this from my point of view. Let me look at this from their point of view, right? Everybody has a point of view, and you're never 100% responsible or 100% not responsible, right? We all contribute to what's happening. And when we get down to humility, guess what? We can now get down to gratitude. I dare you to be angry when you're grateful. You just can't be, right? So you think about, I'm really grateful for whatever that is. So if I'm angry at a person or something has happened, because this happened to me at work one time. I was really angry at this person. They were just making my life miserable. And I was like, okay, what is it that I like about this person? What is it about this person that I can actually be grateful for? So I just started to think about, well, they're actually really funny. They send really funny memes when things are going bad, you know? And so it's like, okay, you know, you can look at things to be grateful for. And then when you're grateful, then you get back down to who you truly are at your core, which is this beautiful, compassionate, loving being. So we look at the precepts in this circular, going deeper and deeper and deeper. We can see the path to our center, see the path to where we are, the light, where our true beautiful light is. And you know how in these sessions we always do the Joshin Kokyoho, you know, the breath of light meditation when we're breathing into our belly and we're igniting the light at our belly and we're expanding that light through our body, right? That light lives within us. And what the precepts do is they uncover what's covering up our light. So if you think about yourself as an angry or worried person, you just have stuff covering your light. But as you start to let go of the anger, as you start to let go of the worry, if you look at it like blankets, right? You peel off the anger, you peel off the worry, you become humble, so now you're lighter. You become grateful, so now you're lighter there. And now your light shines. And this is what the animals see. So, luckily for us, the animals see our light. They see through the anger, they see through the worry. They see us for who we truly are at our core. And that's why you might see animals who have been abused who still love their abuser because we don't see that person as uh, you know, someone that maybe we like or can forgive, but the animals see that. And what they see is this beautiful light. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a moment. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about what the precepts bring and what they do for your life. So the reason these are so powerful is because of what they bring to you. They bring an inner stability, right? So when you're angry or you're worried, you're not really stable. You're off. You're kind of like an earthquake, right? When you're worried, your energy is like this. When you're angry, your energy is like this. You're not solid. You're not stable. But when we're in that energy of the precepts, when we let go of our anger, we let go of our worry, where we're humble, we're honest, we're grateful, and we're compassionate, now we are in a place where we can handle hard things. And I know the precepts have brought me through some very, very difficult challenges, especially when I was going through my divorce. My husband had almost like a psychotic break, and it was like 5 months of just pure hell. And it literally daily throughout the day, I was saying the precepts, and they really helped me to stay strong in a really dark storm. And that's what they can bring to you. Like how you can handle hard things is through that energy of the precepts. We can hold space for people through the energy of the precepts, right? Because we're letting go of our ego, our judgment, and we're sitting with them in a beautiful, calm, supportive space. We're not trying to fix, we're not trying to do anything. This is where we can truly hold space for people. In the space of the precepts, we can respond instead of reacting, right? Because when you let go of anger and you let go of worry and you let go of your ego, well, now all that's left is just gratitude and compassion. So now you can respond in a loving, kind way instead of reacting and maybe a I'm sorry, I just need to let somebody in. Instead of reacting in a negative way, they also create grounding and confidence and again, build up our compassion. So, what I was really excited to share with you about the precepts. So this is like what I'm sharing with you is what like Kelly and I know Megan teaches and all of the teachers here who are in the Let Animals Lead method. This is how we teach the precepts, right? We're teaching that it's a path. They bring stability to you, right? And how they work with animals. And we'll talk a little bit about how they work with animals at the end here. But recently, Nicholas Pearson, and for those of you who were at the retreat, you know this because I shared this, but for those of you who weren't, Nicholas Pearson shared some very interesting new history that they found out about the precepts that is so mind-blowing. Because, first of all, they were around before Reiki. And they think that Usui got them through what I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to read a little bit of this because I don't want to misstate it because they're not good with facts sometimes. So around 2011, Naoko Harano wrote an article called The Birth of Reiki and Psycho-Spiritual Therapy in the 1920s, 1930s Japan, the Influence of American Metaphysical Religion. During the late Meiji period, and that's late 1800s to early 1900s Japan, was undergoing intense social, political, and cultural upheaval. Kind of like what we're going through now, right? With AI and the war and everything else. So it's kind of fitting right now. In this article, she explains that at the time Usui was creating the system of Reiki, there was already a spiritual well-being movement, Seishin Ryoho, spiritual healing method or mind cure method happening. So Seishin Ryoho literally means spiritual healing method or a mind cure method. And part of those healing systems included precepts. So in Seishin Ryoho, precepts were commonly used as daily moral disciplines meant to stabilize the mind and behavior. This supports the idea that Usui integrated an existing spiritual practice rather than inventing something new, but a practice that was central to his approach to Reiki. If you heal the mind, the body will follow, right? And so if you take our classes, that's one of the big things, especially if we do the chair treatment, which was one of Usui's only hands-on type of method, it's all around the head. You heal the mind, the body will follow. So this leads us to Dr. Suzuki Bizan. Dr. Suzuki Bizan was a Japanese moral philosopher, an educator, and a spiritual writer, and was part of the Seishin Ryoho movement that focused on moral self-cultivation and mental soundness. Dr. Suzuki's work was not about healing techniques, energy work, or religion. It was about how human beings live well under pressure. Now, that's really important to remember and to think about, right? It wasn't about energy work or religion or healing techniques. It was about how human beings live well under pressure. And that is so important because what do the precepts do? They release some of that pressure. When we release our anger, we're releasing that pressure. We're releasing worry, we're releasing that pressure, right? And then we come into letting go of our ego, which is also pressure. And we get back down to honesty, gratitude, and compassion. So historically, what scholars, including Hirano, suggest is that Usui created his version of the precepts from Dr. Suzuki Bizan. His work was well known in educated and spiritual circles at the time that Usui was doing his work, right? At the time that Usui went to the mountain and meditated. And Dr. Suzuki wrote a book with a version of the precepts in a section called A Path to Soundness. So now I'm going to share on my screen. Let me pull this up really fast. I'm going to give to you Usui's original precepts, a little bit different than what I'm showing you with the graphic, but still the same type of precepts. So the precepts have changed over the years many times. And even if you take our level 2 class, it's a very different set of precepts, but they're still based on the same principles of what I'm going to share with you. So let me share my screen. Okay, great. All right, can you see the original precepts here? Rebecca, I'll look at you if you nod yes. Can you see them? Okay, perfect. All right. So you see that on the left, we have Usui's precepts. Just for today, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, work diligently, be kind to others. Now, here is Dr. Suzuki Bizan's that were in 1914. Just for today, same thing. Do not be angry. Do not be fearful, which fear and worry are basically the same. With honesty, perform your duty diligently. Be kind to others. So the only thing that Usui added, which is pretty powerful, is be grateful, right? But that in itself is very powerful because gratitude brings everything together. So when we look at these side by side, I think it's pretty safe to say Usui took his precepts from Dr. Suzuki Bizan. I don't think that we can question this really because this is from 1914. This is from the early 20s, and it's almost identical. So I'll stop sharing. I just wanted to show that to you. Now, well, I will stop for a second and I'll say here, this was Japan. And so in Japan, you usually had one skill and you became an expert at that skill, which was interesting because Usui did not have one skill. I think that, and Kelly, you can back me up on this. I think that Sensei Yakutin Inamoto, said that he had 29 jobs, didn't he? And they thought that he was going up to the mountain possibly to commit suicide. Like, but he didn't. He came down and he had this Reiki power. So when we look at this and they say, with honesty, perform your duty diligently, it means to, when you're working, whatever your life purpose is, right? So in Japan, your life purpose was pretty much your job. But here in modern times, our life purpose might be animal Reiki. So we perform our animal Reiki diligently, right? With honesty. And that means honesty about who we are and where we are and what we're offering, right? And that's why we don't call ourselves healers too, right? That's becoming very honest about what we're doing and what we're offering. We're holding space and we're supporting. But that's for us personally, right? Like I'm not saying that's something that you have to add into it. This is me. Again, my opinions, people. You don't have to take this as gospel. But when we look at his Sui's, his was work diligently, which is the same. But instead of putting honesty, he put gratitude, which I think also is really good. So I'm going to go out of these and we're going to go back to talking about what this means for us. So sorry, I just want to make sure, I just want to look really fast and make sure that I have so many screens. Oh, and I've got two people that entered the waiting room and I'm so sorry. I'm always worried about that. So sorry, Carolyn and Tyler. I've been talking and I did not see you, so welcome. So when we looked at those precepts, we could see, yeah, Usui did not create the precepts, but that's okay, right? He didn't create them, but the ones he used, he placed enormous emphasis on as a daily practice. And I know, Kelly, and if you want to unmute and just add to this, we were both taught that the precepts are the foundation of our practice, and that you really need to be practicing these every day. Now, we were told, I think by Franz, that Usui said to practice 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. I don't know if that can be proven, but I think it is proven that he was very committed to the precepts because he knew that without the precepts, we couldn't perform our Reiki practice with any kind of honesty, diligence, right? And so when we look at the precepts, see them as that foundation to everything, to how you do a reiju, to how you do hands-on healing for yourself, for other people. It's how you hold space for people. You have to come from a place without worry and without anger, with honesty, with gratitude, with compassion, and especially with animals. So where Asui, I don't think used foundation like it's taught now, but the way he talked about it implied that it was a foundational technique. And so when we look at the precepts, I hope that you really think about that for a moment, just about see them as that foundation to this beautiful practice that you're building. Because let's say you didn't practice the precepts and you allowed anger to come in. Um, I don't want Reiki from somebody who has anger issues, right? I want my Reiki practitioner who I'm going to go to be living through the energy of the precepts. So one thing I want to call out. So when we look at the precepts, right? And so I'll bring these back up again for you. I'll bring up, we'll just bring up Usui's. Why not, right? Let me just go back to sharing my screen. Sorry. Um, why can't I find share now? Oh, the okay, here we go. So yeah, let's go back to this. So this is what Anna's question was, and thank you so much, Anna, for this. What Anna brought up was, and I've heard this, and this isn't just Anna, I've heard this in so many classes, and Kelly, I saw you unmuted yourself. So back me up here. People want to say, well, I don't want to say do not because do not is negative, right? And it brings us to negativity. I don't know if you want to say something about that, Kel, because I know we both have had this in our
I have
class.
a lot to say about that.
Yeah, well, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I think anger is the best example of this is that if we're we're turning the that precept into a like an affirmation and saying today I am happy rather than excuse me, do not anger or do not be angry. We're not looking at the fact that we get angry, right? So or that we get angry. We're sorry, we're trying to kind of cover that up. So it's like spiritual bypassing idea or toxic positivity. And we're just like, no, I'm not going to look at that. But if we don't look at it, it's impossible for us to work with it and to be able to get in and just really dig around in what the root of that anger is so that we can get rid of it and let it go. If we're denying the fact that we get angry, we're never going to be able to work with it. And for me, the precepts are all about letting go of anger and worry, but using the precepts themselves as tools to delve into what's going on with us, what's blocking our light, and how do we get rid of it. But if we deny the fact that we ever anger or get worried, we're never going to be able to work with it.
Yeah, so Anna was saying, she said that, so when I start to say don't anger, don't worry, I'm thinking about times of anger. I replace do not worry with just for today, have faith, and do not worry with just for today, be calm. And so I think that, that on itself, if you want to use that as an affirmation for yourself, then of course go ahead and do that in your practice, right, Kelly? Because we're not here to try and convince you this is the only way. What we're saying is just exactly like you said, Kel, that we don't want to bypass our anger and we don't, sorry, somebody needs to be led. We don't want to bypass our anger or bypass our worry and go, okay, for just for today, be calm. Um, because calm and letting go of your anger will come as a result of saying the precepts and going through that. So if you want to say, oh, just for today, I will be calmer, or changing them to positives, you can, but then it becomes an affirmation.
Right. They're
Then,
separate.
right? It's not the precepts any longer because the precepts are instructions. At least that's what I was told, and that makes sense to me, right? They're instructions for how you live a more balanced, grounded, confident life in peace and with love and compassion.
Mhm.
It's like being instructed, like for a child. You're not going to say to them instead of don't touch the hot stove, you know, be happy and, I can't, I guess you can't even say stay away from the stove. I don't even know what you would say, but you can't turn it into you have to turn it into something that's an instruction, right? You're going to burn yourself. And basically the precepts are telling us if you live with anger and you live with worry, you're not going to be able to be humble. You're not going to be able to be compassionate. You're not going to be able to be grateful because you have worry and anger clouding everything. So the instruction is for today only do not anger. And And it's a powerful instruction because it's guiding us. It's like a light guiding us. It's not like, hey, do not anger and now I want you to focus on anger. No, in fact, it's kind of the opposite of when I get angry, I go, oh, I'm angry, right? It immediately brings me to the point that I'm angry. And I don't know, Cal, if you want to say something about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really understand the nuances of anger, right? Because I hadn't really spent any time on it, and I always saw myself as not a, I'm positive, I'm not an angry person, until I started really, journaling on it and, doing the, work with Reiki, and then it was like, wow, there's all these subtle layers of anger that I have just not connected to do not anger, right? Like silent scorn and, resentment, things like that. So for me, it was just a really deep dive into the places that and the times that I get angry where I don't, it's not a fury, right? So it's just a subtle thing. And I didn't even know that until I started working with the precept, like at my age. I was not this age, but
Right, but you are
20 years ago, and I was
yeah,
just
you
sort of
were
like,
like in
Cal.
your 40s and like you think, okay, I'm especially like when we're in our 40s, we're like, oh yeah, I've done a lot of self work, I've done a lot of stuff on myself. But I love that you said that because what the precepts do is they make us aware of
Mhm.
when we're angry and we don't think we're angry, right? Like you were just saying, like the silent scorn and the precepts just pop in and go, up for today only, do not be angry. And you're like, oh, I guess I am angry. Yeah. Yeah. Or, worry too. It's like, you're doing the silent scorn thing because really you're worried about is that person going to accept you or is that person going, whatever that is that you're worried about. Am I going to have enough money but it might come across more as anger, but kind of at the bottom of it is worry. And it just brings you to that light of understanding, oh yeah, yeah, shit. I am. I mean, I know people, and I'm sure you all have too, where you think they're just this really calm, easygoing person, da 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 da, and then all of a sudden one day, could be years later, they blow up and you're like, whoa, whoa, you have been storing all this anger. So this like, oh, everything's fine is really kind of a cover up to something deeper. And it will come up. It
Mhm.
will come up. And I think that's the most shocking thing too, don't you think, Kel, is like you think, oh wow, they really have it together. They got it under control. And then I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, they're a
Sooner
volcano.
or later, it leaks out some, it comes out sideways or whatever,
Right.
right? And we really, I think that's the thing, we shouldn't be shamed about it or feel shameful about it, or, it's something that we just need. Everybody gets angry. We're human, right? So we're going to get angry about whatever. And a lot of times, we see do not anger and we're like, okay, I got to really work on this, but it's not always a bad thing. It's a motivator, and
Like
red flag, something needs to be changed.
exactly. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you for putting the other side of that out because that's exactly right. And that's what the precepts do, right? They just come to us and they go, oh yeah, oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's why I'm angry. Because it's not like shaming you. Oh, do not anger. You should feel bad. It's
Mhm.
more like you said, this could be a red flag or a motivation to get out and speak your mind and do something. So like if I'm sitting by somebody and somebody comes up and starts yelling at this person, I'm going to say something, right? That's my anger. It's not like I'm not going to do anything because I'm in this energy of the precepts and the precepts told me do not anger. No, it's like when you are angry or when you do come up, it's you're still saying it in the veil of without worry, with humility, right? With gratitude and with compassion. So I can be upset with someone and go, whoa, whoa, okay. Hey, this isn't okay. But still not have that, oh my gosh, this isn't okay. Right? It brings that
But and
stability.
it also links to be kind to others because it,
Right.
anger for me often, is social justice related, right? So, I'm being kind to others by caring about them and getting and I get mad and get motivated. So, yeah, they're all linked together. And I think it's really important that you started with that where it's about us not carrying the anger around,
Yeah.
but we'll carry it until we look at it. And if we don't look
Right.
at it, then we're just going to keep dragging it around like a bag of trash.
Like an old, dirty, stinky blanket.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be doing, people. So I want to go back to this for a minute, and I don't want to look at it like going downward, but I want you to look at it like on the outskirt, on the outside of this circle. So if we have do not anger on the outside, do not worry, be humble, be grateful, be compassionate to yourself and to others, and like, right? Like it's a chain. And when you look at it like a circle, like a circular chain, and you think they're all holding hands, right? Do not anger, do not worry, be humble. For today only, all holding hands. When you do get angry and it drops out, right? Like it falls out, you just pick it up again and you hold hands and you go back through. And that's the other beauty about the precepts. If you fall, if you weren't humble or you weren't grateful or you weren't very compassionate to someone, you bring yourself right back into that energy of the precepts and keep that circular, that's like almost like the wheel of fortune, right? You're going round and around and you're just keeping that in that circle. When you fall out, there is not uh there's no like punishment or no shame or anything. It's like, oh yeah, I need to handle that better. And you just bring yourself right back into that energy of the precepts. So I wanted to just kind of share that, but I have one more thing. So like this is what I wanted to share that I thought was really exciting about, Usui, this isn't just Reiki, right? This is a spiritual movement that people in Japan and the in Western states were leaning into, right? And it's not false positivity or anything or bypassing, it's creating that inner strength. And for me personally, and I know Kelly, I know the precepts have changed you, but for me personally, in 2 weeks time, in 2 weeks time, because after 2 weeks after my class, I started to notice that things were going better at work. Um, I had a little conflict with someone and it just kind of went away. Because when we look at, like, if you're fighting with someone, right, and you're like this, if you are in the precepts, you're open. You have no anger, you have no worry, you've let go of your ego, you're compassionate, you're grateful, you're kind, you're honest. You're all of this, right? And this person, they no longer have anything to push off of because you're open. And you can say to someone, you can disagree with someone and say, I understand you. I see you. I hear you, right? Which is really powerful. Doesn't mean I agree with you, but I hear you. I see you. I acknowledge where you are. That is so powerful. And in that space of the precepts, we can say that with honesty and clarity. So it's the precepts for you as a person create this strength and stability and compassion that sometimes meditation doesn't bring. Because I worked in Los Altos, California, which is like Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley at its height because a lot of the billionaires live there. And so you see these women, and no judgment. I mean, it's everybody's at their own pace. But I'll just use it for just a joke here and for an example. These women, they go to yoga, and in yoga, it's a spiritual practice, but they're using it as a physical practice, and they do all that, and they come in, you do your meditation at the end, you're chanting, whatever, and then they come out and they're just like, and they're rude, and they're in the coffee places and they're rude, and so it's like meditation can sometimes be more like a timeout. It's not necessarily bringing you the benefits of meditation, especially if you don't have a really good meditation teacher to guide you. But the precepts bring what you're searching for. They bring that compassion to you. They bring that inner empathy and love and joy and peace to you. And all it is literally is 2 minutes a day. You wake up in the morning, you say the precepts 3 times, whichever version that resonates best with you. So I know, like for Kelly, I don't know if you still use the level 2 ones, Kel.
Yeah, I really like that version.
So why don't you tell everybody what that version is?
Do not anger. Anger is illusion. Do not be worried. Fear is distraction. be true to your way and your being, be compassionate to yourself and others, for that is the center of the universe.
So that's like what you would learn in the Let Animals Lead level two. A little bit different, right? And that one's really powerful too, because there's like a little bit of explanation kind of that helps you. But just saying whatever version, right, Cal, whatever version resonates with you, saying it 3 times in the morning and 3 times at night, right? You say it first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. You have to do this. And what I would do, because I'm not good with creating habits, is I would have them on a sticky note right by my bed, right? And I would have them on a sticky note in the bathroom in case I forget. And then at night when I'm brushing my teeth, I could say, okay, yeah, but I'd also have them by my bed so that right before I go to sleep and shut my eyes, I say the precepts 3 times. And what that does is it gets into your subconscious because right before you go to sleep is when you're at your most open. So you go to sleep with that energy of the precepts, and they really start to bleed into your body to become part of you at a like a cellular level. And you will notice huge change in your life in just 2 minutes a day. That's all it takes. You're just saying it 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. Literally, probably less than 2 minutes if you think about it. And so, but that is so simple, yet it's so incredibly powerful. And I'm here to tell you, you're going to start to see miracles in your life because of these. This is why I 100% lean into the precepts, will die saying that this practice changed my life because you start becoming more open, right? More loving. What you put out is what you get back. And now things that you didn't think are possible start to happen for you because you're no longer putting worry and anger as boundaries between you and what you want. So manifestation literally becomes easy peasy. I mean, it's crazy. And for animals, because we can't forget our animal friends, for animals, this is even more powerful when we can bring the precepts to animals. So I've shared Caesar's story with you guys a few times, right? So Caesar was or is an older pit bull, and I'll share my screen so you can see some pictures of little Mr. Caesar. And I've told you guys this story, so apologize for those who have heard his little story over and over. Oh, let me get to his little pictures real fast. But I just want to remind you of Caesar because Caesar was a 10 and a half year old pit bull. And Caesar was going to get put down on January 3rd. And I found out about Caesar on December 30th. Or maybe it was, I mean, December 20. No, it was December 30th because it was New Year's Eve. So on December 30th, I think I found out about him. And I was going over there to get him because I just convinced myself I'm going to adopt this dog. So I posted it on Facebook, which is something I really don't. If you go to my Facebook, it's public. I don't really post a whole lot, but I posted about Caesar for whatever reason. I'm really excited. I'm going to go get this dog, blah, blah, blah. And I knew my community would send all kinds of positive messages. So I go to get Caesar. Here's little Caesar at his house. They're telling me they're going to be home insecure. They're going to have to put him down. They can't find anyone to take him. He's a 10 and a half year old pit bull. He was a big boy. He's at least 60 pounds. And pit bulls look scary, especially when they're big. And they just couldn't find anyone to take this poor, sweet boy. So I went there thinking, I'm going to rescue this dog. And I got there and I was like, oh no. And everything was going wrong too. Like he was pulling on the leash, he was choking himself. Everything was just going wrong, wrong, wrong. And I'm like, oh my God. So I went in I had to say goodbye. I went in my car, started crying, and I went, okay, wait a minute. This isn't about you. Started saying the precepts. Okay, okay. For today only. Don't worry. Go back in there. Went back in the house, got more information about Caesar. And by the time I got back in my car, took these pictures. By the time I got back in my car, the rescue that I was working with had already found 2 fosters for him. The next day, one of the fosters took him. So it was New Year's Eve, and they took him. And it was incredible. And even during the time that they took him, another rescue, or not a rescuer, an adopter was founded for Caesar. She was a woman who had an elderly pit bull who was 12. She had just lost her other elderly pit bull. She was looking for a mate, and Caesar was perfect. And so, let me go to the next page if I can here. I'll just do the page number because I can't, don't have my glasses on, can't see. This is me with Caesar at his new house, and look at Caesar.
Mhm.
Totally different dog, completely different dog. And this is the energy of the precepts, right? The energy of anything is possible. When we let go of worry, we allow whatever needs to come through to come through. I was all worried. I was making it about me. And as soon as I let that go, as soon as I just surrounded, and it was my community too, right? Because I went back on Facebook, I told everybody what happened, and I said, please continue to send Caesar love and support. And they did. And this is the outcome. This is what the precepts, I mean, this is literally a miracle. Kelly's in the shelter. I've been in the shelter. Elderly pit bulls do not stand a chance because nobody wants an elderly pit bull. They want young dogs, and especially pit bulls are just hard to place. Um, so Cindy says, oh wait, so sorry. Karen said, I'm curious why the level two precepts are different than the level one precepts. It's just a progression, Karen. They are a more advanced version. And then when you take level two with us, we kind of explain why that is and everything. It's kind of a little more than I could talk about here because they're completely different, well, not completely different, but they're different in like how they're being presented. And so it takes more kind of the historical fact and why we do it. But they're still at the core the basic precepts. They're not changed into positive affirmations or the meaning isn't changed. They're actually kind of more like a deeper meaning behind the precepts, if you will. And then Cindy says, how does saying the precepts work with things that are out of our control? U.S. government, rude for, oh, Cindy, so glad you asked. Because when we say the precepts, right, we're changing the energy within our bodies, the energy that we're putting out there. So every time we say, okay, for today only, do not worry, we're putting out that energy of love and peace. That is the only thing that can change. And you'd be surprised at what can change. I mean, they think there have been studies, and I'd have to go back and find out which studies there were, but there were studies, I remember learning this in one class a long time ago, that there's studies about, well, there's actually, oh, okay. So there were studies about the 70s and how the peace and love movement really helped change what was happening because Russia was one of our biggest threats. And all of a sudden, Russia just kind of imploded on itself. The Cuban Missile Crisis was big and present, and it just kind of went away. And they were saying that the energy of love and peace, that the hippie movement really helped to change the energy of what was happening. And so there were also studies, and I can find these studies because these I know, there was a couple with these 7,000 Vedic monks, and I have to think about the facts. I'm going to probably get it wrong, but I can in my recap just give you that again. But they did these meditation cycles where they just meditated for hours on the world. And during that time, apartheid ended. The Berlin Wall came down. Um, God, there were two other things that happened during their meditation times. So it is possible. The impossible can happen, but we have to believe it, right? And that's where we fight with the precepts. We fight with, but no, I have to worry. But no, this is really big. And the precepts remind us that no, you don't. You don't have to worry. You don't have to cling on to something that literally doesn't bring you anything but pain. It's not going to change you at all. So, Rebecca said, we don't focus on what is out of our control. We focus on what we can control. And that is working with the precepts, changing our energy that radiates out and things will change. Yes, thank you, Rebecca. That's exactly it. We're just changing our approach to things, and that's really powerful. When you change how you view the world, how you see the world, how you're approaching the world, things start to change. And you it's not like, oh, overnight, boom, everything's changed. It's a subtle change, but that's how change happens. It happens subtly. That's why like bad things don't sometimes don't happen just overnight. Sometimes, there's a buildup. Things happen, systems fail, and then boom, something really bad happens. But with the energy of the precepts, we can start to understand too what is out of our control. Also, what the precepts bring to us is a sense of humility too, because remember, we don't always know what's best. Like right now, what's going on with the war. If you look at it on its face, you can say, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing that can happen. This is horrible. This is, oh my gosh, this is the worst," right? But we don't know what's on the other side of it. We don't know what good can come of this because it's so big and so horrendous and so just something big will probably happen in a good way, not necessarily a bad way, but we have to go through things just like forests have to burn in order for new growth to come up. It's the same thing. And remember, we're in the fire horse year, right? Hello, we're in the fire horse year. And it is fiery because there's all kinds of other fire going on. And, we're in the feng shui um, period 9, which is all about fire. So there's a lot of burning down what no longer works. And we just have to say faith. And I don't want to get political or anything like that, but for yourself, in order to bring peace of mind to yourself, one, don't watch the news if you can help it. And two, practice the precepts. Cindy, I encourage you, just do the practice. Don't worry about if it's going to work, if it's going to change you. Just do the practice 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. That's all I ask. I would really love for all of us, and I know I've said this before because we've talked about the precepts before. I would love for all of us to come back together and talk about what happened by using the precepts. I would really love for you all to practice the precepts and then let's reconnect like in a month because we have some special guest speakers coming up. Reconnect in a month and say, okay, did this work? Has anything changed for you? Like journal about it, see if things are changing, go, okay. And at first, it might just be rote memorization. That was for me. I don't know, Kelly, if you want to unmute and say it was rote for you too. But it's rote memorization. I didn't really believe them. I didn't really believe I could, oh, do not anger. Okay. I'm an angry person. Do you know what I mean? Like, Kelly, I don't know if yeah, you unmuted too.
Yeah, my initial training wasn't anything about the depth of the precepts at all, but just, recite them twice a day, that sort of thing. But really when you get into the depth of them and the exploration of your feelings and the way you react to things and what you hold on to, what you let go of, how you open your heart, how you find compassion, all of those things are what happens when you really focus on them. And journaling, they're great journal prompts, like Leah was saying. Now, use them as a prompt for journaling. Use them throughout the day. Anytime something comes up, you can just, something that's discomfort, giving you discomfort, or, you're in an argument with somebody at work or whatever. Think about the precepts and how do they apply to whatever that situation is. It could be any situation, really.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Yes. Any situation. I mean, the precepts are there as our tool. They're such a great tool for the toolbox. And it's funny because you reminded me of something. I remember, so I used to work in Silicon Valley and I didn't have a bad commute, but some days there was like tons of traffic, right? And so you're sitting there in the car and like one day I got in and I was just so irritated and I'm so mad and I have to be in traffic and and then the next day, there was traffic again. I think there was like a conference or something going on. So there was like a lot of bad traffic. And I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to, like, at that time, I think it was like a book on CD or something. So it's the same exact circumstances. And I cracked myself up. I'm like, because, it's like, oh, yesterday I was angry. And today I'm like, oh, I'm going to listen to a book and I'm not angry anymore. Same exact circumstances, right? But we start to let go of what is going to make us mad. We start to like realize, oh, okay, I don't have to be mad. I can do something else. I can use this time for something else. Especially in this day and age. Oh my God, there's podcasts, there's books, there's radio shows, whatever you want to listen to while away the time, you can. So I would love to hear. I know I do this every time. I'd love to hear from you guys if there's anything you want to share. And let's see. Joan says, I use the precepts in my work with women in rehab. Oh, yeah, Joan, if you want to unmute and say anything about that, that's really powerful. Do you teach them the precepts and they use them, or is it just something you use in order to hold space? I don't know if Joan can unmute or not. She might not be able to, but that would be interesting.
Unmute. Okay,
Oh,
I'm here.
yay.
Um, yeah, I just find that, I don't ask them anything about their story. I just ask if they have, emotional pain, physical pain, and anything that just about, my focus is about letting go. And I say, because it's actually really tied into why they're at rehab because they haven't been able to let go of their drinking habits and that have obviously caused problems. And so I just kind of approach it in a very calm way. Like, I recite the precepts and then, I said, if there's anything that, we can, and they're on a table. So I do get to do hand, positions over their um, chakras and use our breath, just the deep inhale and the long, slow exhale. And so that long, slow exhale really helps them to kind of start, not like me fixing them. They're doing the work of the
Right.
relaxing and breathing and whatever shows up in the letting go, process, that's their journey, so but I love the precepts for that. They're
Yes. And I love that too as a tool for you too, for these women. That's really powerful. Thank you so much for
oh, thanks. Thank
coming
you.
on and sharing that.
Thanks.
So, does anybody else want to comment or share like Joan did? I'd love to hear from you. Or Kel, I don't know if you have more to say. Anybody? And Rebecca, thank you so much for your comment to Cindy because that was really helpful. And it's another reason why I love this group because it's a group effort, right? We're all learning from each other. And I want to thank Anna for her question too. And going back to that too, Anna, use your affirmations as you will, but then also just try the precepts. Like I said, again, use them as rote memorization. You don't have to focus on them or anything. Just say them. Just repeat them. Because I remember when I very first learned them, I couldn't remember them right off the bat, right after taking. So I had to have them written down. And I remember Kathleen saying, at first you may not feel them at all. Just rote memorization. And when I would sit with animals, right? Sit with animals to try and keep my head space calm, I would recite the precepts. Also, going into a shelter for me, I couldn't go into a shelter without crying. And so for me, that was the tool that Kathleen gave me. Just sit in your car, do the precepts, and then walk in. And know that you can't save them all, right? It gives you clarity of thought too. When you get rid of your anger and you get rid of, like for me at the shelter, worry, then you have clarity of thought. You can see things for how they really are and not how your ego is coloring them, right? So for me, I go into the shelter and think, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Well, it's not. Some of these animals, it's the best thing for them, right? Like they're being cared for, they're being loved, they're getting all the attention and the medical care that they need. And I know that not all shelters are created equally, but on the whole, the people are there at the shelter to help the animals because they love animals. So it really changes your perspective so that you can start to realize, oh wow, yeah, this isn't as bad as like I might think it is. There's actually a lot of good that's coming out of this. So I know we're coming to time, but I really would love to encourage everybody. Let's just say the precepts. Let's bring this into our practice. I'm actually going to take part in this, and Kelly, you too, because you're at home. So let's do this 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night, not even worry about what's going to happen, and let's see what happens. And we have Scarlett coming as a guest speaker. My silly job, which I'm very grateful for. I have to be in Napa on the 1st, so we have to move our Wednesday session to Thursday, but we have Scarlett coming on April 2nd. And she is going to talk all about her new program. But also, when she comes, it's like, oh my God, there's so much healing. So it'd be really cool if you could do your precepts. And then we have Scarlett coming in with her magic little fairy dust. And who knows what can happen for all of us. Next week, we're going to have Jean Louis coming back to do Biomusic 1. So if you haven't experienced that, I highly encourage you to join us because it is a really healing session, and your animals that live in the house with you will love it. And then after that, we have Amanda Ree, who does Sama Dog, and she's going to come and talk to us about, regulating a dog's nervous system. So if you have dogs or you worked in the shelter, Kelly, I know you're going to love this one from Amanda. She's going to talk a lot about what we can do to help animals regulate, or dogs specifically, regulate their nervous systems. So let us do a meditation. We'll do a preset meditation. We'll do the really simple one because that's the easiest. So we bring our hands into Gasho at our heart. And when we do that, it just helps us to bring peace, a peaceful moment at our heart. And if you want to close your eyes or leave them open, it's up to you. I always like to close my eyes to close out all outside distractions. And from here, let's just take in some deep breaths, breathing in deeply through our nose, pulling our breath into our belly, and then slowly releasing our breath out our mouth. Just a nice, slow, soft breath. And do that a couple more times. And as you breathe in and out, feel your body start to soften. Feel the tension and stress release from your body with your breath. And whenever you're ready, you can bring your hands face up or face down in your lap. And just focus on your breath, breathing in and out. It's a nice, slow, calm breath. And you can repeat these precepts to yourself after me, or you can just sit in the energy of the precepts. For today only, do not anger. Do not worry. Be humble. Be honest. Be grateful. Show compassion to yourself and to others. For today only, do not anger. Do not worry. Be honest. Be humble. Be grateful. Show compassion to yourself and to others. For today only, do not anger. Do not worry. Be honest. Be humble. Be grateful. Show compassion to yourself and to others. And just allow yourself to sit in this energy for a moment, focusing on the peace that happens within you when you let go of anger and you let go of worry and you become more honest and humble and grateful. Which brings you to becoming compassionate. Whenever you're ready, bring your hands into Gasho at your heart and give thanks to yourself for being here. And if any animals or people joined you, give thanks to them as well. We always have our guides around us, and sometimes they pop in just to remind us that they are there for us. So I want to thank you for everything, for coming, for all of your input. And also, I want to just remind you that when we are in that energy of the precepts, that is when we are the most powerful and most helpful to animals, right? Because when we let go of our anger, we let go of our worry, we become the person that they know us to be, which is honest, humble, grateful, and compassionate. So just allow your light to shine through these precepts. And I can't wait to reconnect with all of you and find out where we are. So be sure to do this because I will be circling back. And yes, thank you all so much. I'm so glad you're all here. It's what makes this community so beautiful. And I am so incredibly grateful to each and every one of you for coming. And Kelly, thank you so much for coming and for sharing. You know, I love it when Kelly comes.
Thank you, Leah. Thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing this every week, Leah.
absolutely. I know Kelly can't do it because usually Kelly has classes. But I also want to remind you all, Kelly does teach level 1 and level 2. I know you have new classes coming up, don't you, Cal?
I have a level 2 coming up in April, yeah.
Great. So look for that. And we always share those in our newsletters. And thank you so much. There's so many nice messages. Um, yes, you are so welcome, everyone. And yeah, Caesar, I mean, Caesar's story. Oh my God. Caesar is just so, and that is the power of the precepts, you guys. I'm telling you right now, miracles can happen. That was a miracle, I'm telling you. And also just that collective energy, right? This is what we can do as a group. I mean, we might feel all singular and alone when we leave here, but we're not. We're all connected. Quantum physics proves it. So just lean into those precepts and know you are making a change because you're going to connect to another good feeling from someone else and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And if we're all working on our precepts, you guys, that's like right here we have 22 people, right? So that's 22 people. That's a pretty big group if we're all practicing every single day. So thank you. I will see you next week. We have Jean-Louis with Biomusic 1. So be sure to come and get ready to be relaxed and stress-free. I love it when he comes. Bye, everyone.